Welcome back everyone, Monica here with the next installment, looking at older decks from certain decades. Today I'm going to go through, I believe I've got 7 decks from the 1990s. And before I start, I just want to make a couple of clarifications. I did this in my previous video, but I'll put this at the start now. First of all, this is only a selection, and now that we're in the 90s, there are many other decks out there that are being published. This is just, I guess, decks that I've considered maybe perhaps don't get enough exposure out there in the tarot community, or there are decks that I really love from the 90s. Now, some of these are out of print, but some are still in print. But also those that have been out of print, a couple have had, they've been redone and republished under new formats. So I'll mention that when they come up. The last thing I want to say is beware of fake decks, because some of these are out of print. When you go to search for them, if you have an interest in any of the decks that I show, you will come up with prices that are often above $100. Not always, but often out-of-print decks command sort of 100 up to 200, something like that. But you will also see right next to those search results the same deck being priced at $10 or $12, and those are from fake decks. So there are websites that sell fake tarot decks. So I just want to put that out there, because that is the reason why some decks are being sold so cheaply, when in fact most of the search results will show you like $100 or more, and then you come across some that have like $10, $12 ridiculous prices. So I wanted to put that out there. So even if it's out of print though, don't be discouraged, because there is the possibility of new editions coming out. I kind of feel like we've reached peak tarot creativity. Well, not creativity. I think there will always be a case, and there will always be artists that create amazing decks. But there's also a lot of stuff that just rehashes old things. And I think some of the publishing houses have realized this, and they are reissuing decks under new formats. So one example, let's get this started, is Tarot of a Moon Garden. Now, this was initially published in 1993, and this is the version that I have here, and you can still find this for sale. So if you don't like this version, what US Games did is they re-released it under a new format that doesn't have borders, and I'm really wanting to get that format actually, because I prefer no borders. I feel like the images pop up a bit more, but this version, the 993 version, has white borders around it. Now, so this is a personal preference, absolutely. This was created by Karen Marie Swikart. Apologies if I have most likely mispronounced that. And I personally really love this deck for a number of reasons. First up, I guess it's a personal preference that I have for decks that are hand-drawn and give a bit of that childhood book illustration vibe. And I think this deck fits that, okay? And so for me, that's a huge soft spot. I love all decks that have this kind of illustration style. It kind of combines innocence and childlike wonder, and I just consider them to be really beautiful. But I also think this is a really great working deck, particularly if you work with elementals and nature spirits and things like that. If you, like me, are a gardener, if you work with plants, if you want to connect with plants, decks like these are really great decks to do readings on certain plants or garden, your garden as a whole. I just think that they just have a really lovely, gentle energy, but one that also captures that kind of magical realm. So yes, this deck was reprinted, I believe, only last year, and the cards are narrower, I believe, but they don't have the borders, and it's certainly on my wish list, basically, because I think it's such a great deck. So that's what I mean. I think that some publishing houses are realizing that there is value in these older decks that haven't been reprinted for so long, and I hope they'll continue, basically, because there's quite a few decks that fit this category, including my next one. So this is the Hudes Tarot deck. Now, this still holds place of the cheapest tarot deck that I have ever bought. I bought this probably over a decade ago for $14 Australian from that great old website that we all still pine for, Book Depository. So the shipping was free, and all I paid was $14 because with Book Depository, those who haven't had the pleasure of experiencing that amazing shopping experience, all shipping was free for all their books and decks, including all the way to Australia. So this deck was created by Susan Hudes. It is now out of print, but I think this will make a great deck to be reprinted, reformatted even, and reprinted, or keep the same format, I don't mind. Although I would love for the cardstock to change if they choose to reprint it. I'll show you why. But first up, the little white booklet is like a fold-out one. I'm not a huge fan of these, but it gives you lots of information though. Describes the cards, gives you meanings and so forth. This was initially published in 1995, and there may be an older reprint, I believe, but it's still out of print even with that. Yeah, so the cardstock for it has got that high laminate gloss feel, which I'm really not a fan of. You can see that there. Just very, very, feels very plasticky, like it's, in my opinion, yeah. I don't know if you can hear that, but that aside, the cardstock aside, I think this is such a wonderful deck. It has all of these kind of like maps as backgrounds. It says that this is a luminous 78 card deck inspired by medieval symbolism and artistry. And then on the other side it says the Hudes Tarot deck is specially designed with the antique maps, constellation charts, and marbleized paper. And that gives it a really unique place in tarot art. I just think it holds its own space. And most importantly, always, it's a great, fantastic reading deck. It follows the Rider-Waite-Smith, more or less. And I think it's a really fantastic working deck. Like you can work with this deck. I love that death card. I just think it's just... Oh. I really think this deck is one of those hidden little wonders. I read with this regularly. I will bring this out for clients now and then. Not often because the cardstock is kind of puts me off sometimes. But that aside, make no mistake, this is a working deck. It's a reader's deck. Personally, I think it's just absolutely wonderful. And I really love that kind of marbleized paper, I think they called it. I love the constellation charts in the background sometimes that you get. Yeah, like there. I don't know what else to say about it other than it is a hand-painted deck, and I like the mood. It kind of has a bit of a melancholic feel to it, you know, in the characters and the court cards, but I love that. I absolutely love that because that gives it like a kind of energy of contemplation. a little bit of a seriousness, a little bit of, realizing that life is not a superficial, glitter-coated, sugar-coated, advertisement. And I think it gives this deck weight, the way that the core cards are portrayed in it. I feel like they've got realness about them. They've got substance about them. They don't shy away from their problems. That's just what comes through to me when I work with this deck, and therefore I give it a huge weight, and I'll be working with this deck long into the future because of that. So this is the Hudes Tarot. So next up we move to a bit more of a, well, I think it's a romantic feel, personally. And that is Legend, the Arthurian Tarot. Now, this is out of print. It does come with that fake deck warning. You will see very cheap copies of this out there. It was initially published in 1995 by Anna Marie Ferguson. She's also the artist who later created the Llewellyn Tarot, which is a brilliant deck. And her artwork, I consider it to be romantic and absolutely beautiful. So, as the name suggests, this is based on the Arthurian legend of King Arthur, and because of that, I would recommend that you try and find a copy of the deck that has this wonderful book included. So you will find individual decks for sale, but this also came in a pack that had, the deck and the book included. I recommend you try and get both, simply because, as you will see, the cards, let me just very quickly, the cards will have names from the legends. So on the Three of Cups, for example, you've got, the Three of Cups at the top, and you've got the dressing of the sacred spring, and there is a story behind that. Okay, and same with the court cards. They all have names from characters in the Arthurian legend. So Knight of Shields is Bors. I don't know if that's how you say it, but anyway, you get the idea. And so when you look at the book, you're going to have the description of what that story is, the reason behind it. And I think it gives it so much more context and so much more meaning, and helps you to understand these cards a lot. Obviously, for these reasons, it's not a deck I recommend to beginners. Even though the book is excellent, I stay away from these sort of decks for beginners. If people ask me, what deck to have as a beginner, as much as I absolutely love this deck for its artwork, it's not one that I would, recommend to beginners for. It adds extra layers of meanings that when you're just learning tarot, you want to stick to just learning tarot. Okay, so what can I say about this deck? I've worked with this on and off since I got it, long time ago. In fact, I've got spare copy. I've got a sealed pack copy. So that has the deck and the book in the kit. So it's a sealed kit. It has never been opened, and I'm kind of not sure what to do with it. Because I love this deck so much, I'm reluctant to sell that. I tried to once, and I put quite a high price tag on it because that's how I make sure that kind of no one buys it, so I get to keep it. I don't know, there is logic in that, because if I'm reluctant to sell something, I'm not going to sell it really cheap, right? I'm happy to hold on to it. So anyway, I guess I love the predominance of blues and greens in this deck. Actually, what I love even more about it is the portrayal of the devil as Cernunnos. Okay, that's really my hands down favorite portrayal of the devil. as the Horned One, the god of the hunt, god of wild places. There is a huge part of me that relates to that. So, you know, that obviously my preference for this deck is very personal, and as most decks are. And I think because this is one of the first decks that I bought all those years ago, I kind of have that connection with it from my early tarot days. And I don't know about you, but decks from that time period, you know, the first year or two that I got into tarot, hold like such a special place in my collection. And when I bring them out, I kind of, like if I'm ever in a funk with tarot, I bring these decks out and they help me reconnect with tarot, with that energy of wonder and mystery and the absolute love that I have for the cards and the practice of reading cards. So this is one of those decks for me. And I know it's not for everyone, but nonetheless, I think it's a fantastic deck from the 90s. I do think it's a working deck. There's enough details and action scenes in the cards to help you read with it for all sorts of manners. And what more can I say? The cardstock it's quite thin. I would prefer something a bit thicker, but it's not too bad, you know. It's one of the thinner cardstocks from the 90s. So this is Legend, the Arthurian Tarot, not to be confused with the Arthurian Tarot by Caitlin Matthews, by the way, which is also a great deck. I haven't yet gotten that one, but I would like to get it. Okay, I don't think that this video could ever be complete without mentioning the Röhrig. I've got here the Blue Star version. This was printed in 1995. Now, this is out of print. It's really hard to get a hold of the English version for it, by the way. The reason I managed to get a copy of this is because it was a really cheap copy. Like I paid $20 and the deck fetches much more than that. But it had a missing card. That missing card was a Six of Pentacles, and as you can see, all the card names are in English. And I managed to get a replacement Six of Pentacles, but it's in German, I believe. The same back and everything. Of course, it's a brand new card, so you can tell it's a bit different, but, you know. Now, that doesn't bother me because I don't work with this deck, to be honest. I just love it for its uniqueness, all right? I love it for just how different it is, and I mean this carries a 90s flavor with it, absolutely. We've got the beginnings of digital collage in here, and it's a Thoth based deck. I mean, can we explain why we love this deck so much? Maybe it's just because I'm at that age and it brings back that kind of flavor from the 90s. I don't know, but it is very unique. It holds its own ground, right? The cards are huge. There is a lot of nudity also, by the way. I hope I don't get banned from YouTube for this. Yeah, I don't work with it. Number one, the cards are too big. Number two, it's not my style of art for reading. And number three, it is a Thoth-based deck, as I mentioned, and so therefore it's I'm struggling with Thoth, and that's okay. It's just a long labor with that deck, of working with it. But I do think that this deck holds merit. I think it's just original. I think it's quirky. I think it's very layered. If you like that kind of lots of detail and layering in the cards, I mean, there's just so much in it. Symbols, writing, words, people, runes. the Kabbalah, the whole thing, right? This is typical of the 90s, right? More is better. So anyhow, this is the Röhrig, and I just really wanted to include it because I think it's just a fantastic deck, even though it's not really a deck for me to work with. The Glastonbury Tarot. I think this is a classic. I long wanted it, and last year I managed to get a copy for something like $20 or $25, which is incredible because it's long out of print, and I'm not sure if there's ever a reprint considered. The deck comes in a kit with a fantastic book, and oops, excuse me. And my one issue with it, aside from these really flimsy kit boxes that always break and they're not very sturdy, my one issue is the card, the card stock. It's very thin, super thin and heavy. It's like plastic laminate, and I'm not a fan of that. But now that I got that out of the way, this is a truly wonderful deck because it's uncluttered. It's simple. The images straight away give you the story, give you the message, give you the meaning. Some of the cards are a bit different to traditional Rider-Waite-Smith meanings, and because of that, even though it's an uncluttered deck, I'd be wary of recommending it to beginners. Not that you can get this deck very easily anyway, unfortunately. I do hope someone at some stage considers getting this deck and issuing a reprint of it. But for now, it remains kind of like one of those rare decks. You can see copies of it online for sale for around, I don't know, over $100 and upwards, depending on the condition of the cards and so on. But as you can see, I mean, this deck would be great to read with, but you just got to be mindful that some cards, like here, the Seven of Swords, you know, and they've got titles like Boundaries. The Two of Stops, the title is Gateway. Yeah, just gotta be mindful of that. It's not like, don't try and convert Rider-Waite-Smith to this deck automatically. But that aside, it is a wonderful reading deck. I have read with this deck. It reads really well. It actually gives me crazy insightful and accurate readings. I really wasn't expecting that from it. So this is the Glastonbury Tarot. Now, this was published in 1999 by Wiser. It'll be lovely if someone sees this and thinks that reprinting it would be a great idea, because it is, and it's a lovely deck. The Celtic Tarot, illustrated by Courtney Davis. Important to note that because there is another Celtic Tarot out there that's not this deck. It's a completely different deck. This is illustrated by Courtney Davis, and this was published in 1990. Now, I've tried to find out, you know, what other versions there are, because I think that it's been reprinted since. The version that I have, and I believe this is the initial printing, but I couldn't confirm it 100%, by the way. If anybody knows, I would love to know. Comes in this terrible, tacky, like video, VCR video, plastic box, okay? I mean, it's just appalling. For those of us old enough to remember video tapes, you know what I'm talking about. So, excellent book. Very, very thick paper. I would say this would be printed in. Yeah, first published 1990. Printed in Great Britain. Oh, those days, the good days. Yeah, and I mean the paper for the book is just so nice and thick. Lots of good information in there. Lots of card descriptions and meanings. So Yeah, this was illustrated by Courtney Davis, and the book was written by Helena Patterson. So this deck, hang on, let me just get my bearings right. This deck has the minor arcana that is not illustrated with scenery or scenes. And I think that's probably maybe one reason why we don't see it very often. But if you like working with, say, maybe a Marseille type deck and you want something a bit different, this is really, really wonderful. Like a Celtic flavor of the Marseille, in terms of having the pips, the minor pips, just having the number and the element showing, but done in a really beautiful stylistic way. I think the person who illustrated this must have like some art background or design background, or have some sort of artist ability. I just think that the color choices and the way they're arranged and the patterns are really, really stunning. Yeah, it's like a visual feast working with this deck. And the major arcana, I mean, look at that. Hang on, let me just show you. The major arcana is just stunning. Gosh, I mean, I've got respect for this deck. So well executed. I don't see it around very often. I mean, I don't watch like every single tarot YouTube channel. That would just be impossible. So I probably shouldn't say that these don't get a lot of exposure, because maybe there are people that give these decks exposure, but I don't know. I think there's just so much to be said about these older decks, hand-drawn, hand-painted, really beautiful illustrations. And this is one of them. I mean, this deck really tops the cake in terms of visual imagery and aesthetic and art, color choices, and everything about it. So I don't work with it a lot. This is one of those decks where I'm kind of keeping because it's beautiful and I love it. And it's not that easy to get a hold of. Again, could somebody please reprint this as well? In fact, I should just do a video called decks that should be reprinted. That might be my next thing. And dedicate that to the publishing houses out there. Anyhow, so this is the Celtic Tarot by Courtney Davis, and with the book written by Helena Patterson. And last but certainly not least is the Enchanted Tarot by Amy Zerner and Monty Farber. This is a fantastic deck. Now, the version that I have here is a kit set that comes with a very, very wonderful book. Okay, very comprehensive, full color imagery. Yeah, absolutely fantastic job on the book. And yeah, just hang on. What I was gonna say is, this was first published in 1992. Okay, and the text, copyright 1990, card illustrations, copyright 1990. This edition was published in 2009. Okay, so this is 2009. Now, there are different versions of this. There's a 25-year anniversary edition that's still out there. And this year, I believe there's a 35-year anniversary edition that is quite special. You'll have to look them up in terms of what they contain. I haven't done my full homework on that, but I guess basically what I'm saying is, yes, this is still in print. If you like what you see here, and I might actually consider getting one of those editions, because I would like to get one without the white borders. And these are quite big cards too, so I kind of find them just a bit too big for me. But that aside, again, this deck has exquisite artwork. And I believe that Amy Zerner is a fabric artist and that this is done using fabric collage. I would have no idea how you'd go about doing that, to be honest. And you can see it in some of the cards, you know, the use of fabric and tapestry as backgrounds. This is a reading deck. I was surprised by that. And what I mean when I say it's a reading deck, like you can read this for clients because it's a Rider-Waite-Smith based deck. And the images usually give you enough detail and information to help extract meaning and to understand sort of what's going on. Personally, I think this deck has just so much beauty to it. I think it's got like its own unique style. By the way, I haven't seen anything like this out there. Again, I haven't come across every single tarot deck there is in the world. I think that would be impossible now with just how many have been printed, but you know what I mean. The way that it's been created and the artwork that's been used, the fabric collage, it's very, very unique to this deck. I feel like it was groundbreaking in a certain way in that sense, but it's a beautiful reading experience with it. And again, I keep this deck because of those factors. It's a visual feast. I very, very much enjoy seeing this deck, but also I do work with it and I find it very, very useful in doing readings and for both myself and for clients. Not as much as my other decks, I admit, but again, you know, this is a deck that was published in the 90s initially, and it still holds its value as a reading deck and as a beautiful deck. So that concludes my decks from the 90s. I have thought about doing decks from the 2000s, from the 00s, I believe, you can say. And I'm not sure whether I will do that or not, simply because then we're getting into the time period when you know, digital collage comes out, and there's a lot of decks that start being published in the 2000s. You've got Baba Studio on the scene. I mean, nothing wrong with that or anything, but I just think it'll be really difficult to just select the 90s deck, the 2000s decks that I have, or only select 6 or 7, because I think I've got quite a few, but I'm not sure. I might do a follow-up video for that, but for now I shall leave it here. Thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for supporting my channel. Until my next video, take care.